Okay, hello. Hopefully this works. I've been having some trouble with recording video, but fingers crossed this is not going to overload because I have made the screen size a lot smaller. I think so. I plugged it into my big 4K screen, and my puny little laptop was not capable of dealing with that. So we're back down to this smaller size, which is the normal size. So hopefully that's going to work again. What are we looking at today? Well, there's a new Charlie XCX album, but that isn't very important as far as I'm concerned. It may well have some interesting things going on in it. I will listen to it, but I'm not doing that right now as a priority. No, we're listening to this, which is the Punch Brothers. Now, the Punch Brothers have been around a while, like 2008 or something. Before that, their sort of main wunderkind character, he's not that young, he's significantly older than me, Chris Thiele, he was in a band before that called Nickel Creek, who recently released another album, which I thought was pretty fun, if dragged on. And this is a less draggy album, back with the Punch Brothers, where we've got a good old set of old string instruments here. We've got bass, we've got a fiddle, we've got a mandolin, which is Chris Thiele, we've got a banjo, and we've got a guitar. So all the things, all the things that are strings. Yeah, Chris Thiele likes to play mandolin as if he's in a metal band, as you will potentially see on this one. I can't remember if it's actually in this one, but if not, then I'm sorry to have led you down the garden path. Go and listen to some of these others, like New Bike. Yeah, definitely some of the others. I can't quite remember which ones, but he's got some quick old strumming going on, which I will vaguely attempt to emulate when it comes up, if it comes up in this one. But yeah, this one, Saturn, Pogo Ball of the Gods. Do you get it? Do you remember those Pogo balls where it was like a ball, a bouncy ball, I guess, quite large, on a stick? So like a pogo stick, but it's a ball, and then it would have like a ring for you to stand on the outside. That's presumably what the joke is here. Poor old Saturn. Let's have a listen. Yeah, fun. Fun beginning. So we've got 3 chords, which are nicely spread between the instruments. I think we've got, well, it could be mandolin, but mandolin comes in a bit later. So I imagine it's guitar and bass and banjo. I think the banjo's up here and the guitar's somewhere like there, and the bass is lower, although it comes up all the way to up there, I think, on the last note. Nice and high for a bass. So we get each one doing one note, so there's no strumming or anything. They're just playing notes together, notes together, notes together. That's the definition of chords. It really sounds nicely structured and deliberate, and also a bit soft because they're each only playing one note. And then we get that strum, mainly just on the beat, but with specific beat patterns, isn't it? It's not just doing 1E and a 2E and a 3E and a 4E and it gives us an irregular beat pattern. It gives us 7. Let's listen to that again and we'll count them. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. There we are. So 7 beats as we come in. We love an irregular time signature. Oh yes, we do. You gonna draw for me? Oh no. Okay. Irregular. For those of you that don't know, an irregular time signature is one where instead of a nice number like 4 or 2 or 3 beats happen every bar, we have something much more unusual. Like for instance here, 7. Not a lot of songs are in 7. You can find them. They're not actually very hard to find, but having 7 puts you in a very special camp. Probably less than 1% of the songs made by the world are in 7, I would imagine. So this is quite a slow 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And individually those beats are still 4s. 1 Eana, 2 Eana, 3 Eana, 4 Eana, right? So it's dubba 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 dubba. So each one of those has 4 semiquavers in. It's just that there are 7 bigger beats before we get into the next bit, and that continues on. It continues on in 7, which is really fun. Maybe that beginning is in 7 as well, but because the chords are quite spread, we don't get that continuation of time between them like we do with the constant strum. Anything else we like about what we've just heard? I mean, we do like the mandolin strumming. We like the ensemble generally. Let's just put acoustic instruments. Acoustic. Was a time you couldn't get away from acoustic instruments because electricity hadn't been invented. But now they are all all over the place. Wow, that definitely says instruments. Oh yeah, okay, instruments. Lovely, let's keep going. Fun. Well, we've got a pedal. We do like pedals. It's a tonic pedal, so it's giving us that G that feels like where we're rooted. And we've got a big G minor chord over it. Most things here, banjo, guitar and bass, are just rooting down that G. Yeah, probably just these low 2 octaves actually. Maybe with that one. So anyway, we've got that low G, and the mandolin is up here. The fiddle not doing much right now, but gives us that chord, the mandolin does, then this chord. Ooh, still with the G in the bass, holding that G tonic pedal. So as we change chord, it becomes a lot more discordant. This is more of an A major chord. So we've had this G minor, then A major. That's a big change. They don't exist in the same key together. What's sort of their connection is that it's a fall of these 2 semitones up here. We have B flat and D, and they fall just by a semitone there, and they make this very eerie sounding chord. They then do the same thing again, falling again a semitone. So we get more of like an A flat chord. I can't hear the E flat in it, and I can't hear an F either, but I don't know what's going on there. But we get definitely these 2 notes, the A flat and the C. So we get this big fall of 2 semitones from each of those thirds there. Can't happen in the same key. And then instead of resolving like that, it doesn't quite do that. It sort of goes. So we get mainly this sus2 chord instead, which occasionally gives us that major third, and that sort of feels like we've resolved. We've come to G major, interestingly, rather than G minor, but it sort of feels like a resolution sometimes, but it's avoiding it to some degree. What are we going to put down? Let's definitely put down a tonic pedal. We love a tonic pedal. Tonic. So that's where the bass generally is rooted on the first note of the key, so the sort of home note, while chords change above it. We like chromatic lines as well, especially chromatic thirds, the two parts here. There are some notes that can move down by a semitone and still be in the same key. Like if we're in G minor here, and we take what are they? Yeah, if we have E flat and B flat, and we move them down by a semitone, they still they go to D and A, and that still exists in the same key, but that's pretty rare. It really only occurs between fourths and fifths and octaves. So chromatic thirds are, if they're moving both together chromatically, by definition, that's something that goes beyond a normal key center. It's not non-diatonic. Very fun. And it sounds pretty good here. Oh, yes, and there's one thing about the fiddle, actually, which is that the fiddle goes... Now, normally, a violin's lowest note is G. But this goes... It goes down to the F. So clearly, we have either detuned that string or found some way of... But I've seen some people playing violins in insane ways where they can get extra notes out that are lower than the range. But I'm pretty sure that this must be a detuned violin, detuned fiddle, which is really cool. Just to get that extra low note and that slide is very fun. Very fun sound, quite unusual. You know, it could be a viola, but I don't think so. I think if they're calling it a fiddle, which they are, then it's a detuned fiddle, and that's very fun. That'll give the strings a little bit more weight and a little thickness that they wouldn't have otherwise. Like, yeah, thicker, slightly more flappy sound. It's fun. Same thing going on there, but we've got now the banjo doing some interesting things. Yeah. Let's hear that again, because that's not the notes you would expect to be added. Here we go again. Yeah, so on that G minor, which would be these notes, we're getting some of those. Mainly we're getting sort of a G minor pentatonic riffing. It's probably following a pattern, but it's quite a complicated pattern, so I'm not going to attempt right now to work it out. Yeah, and then this one, which is our A chord, one of these, right? One of those. Then we've got a slight change. Yeah, have we moved up? Ta-da! Yeah, interesting. So while they're on this, it's more like that. Yeah. Which is more of a what is that? E chord? No, a D chord. Yeah, it's like it's on a D chord at the same time as the other ones on the A chord, and at the same time as the guitar and the pedal and the bass pedal are holding down that G. So interesting set of different ideas here. They do have notes in common, that chord, but it keeps coming back to the G. The G, which is not oh, that's not a G, is it? It's a D. Yeah, that makes sense. The D, which is against the C sharp in the other one. So they really feel like they're at odds in a strange kind of disconnected way. Yeah, and on this one, it feels like we're back where we were for the G minor. So with the G minor pentatonic stuff, that kind of stuff, which isn't in absolute aggression against the A flat, but it's definitely adding some unusual things there. Some notes, well, basically only one note is actually there, so they're like in with that one. So it still feels a little strange, but it's at least more connected to the G underneath, I guess. So interesting. Yeah, and then when we've got to that G, which now actually feels more like a added 6 chord, like this kind of thing. So G major with an added 6 feels a little different, different voicing, different notes. We're back to the pentatonic, which is interesting because that then doesn't quite jive. But we're not using too much of the minor third, which would have been the real one to clash with it. We're using the 7th, which does go against the 6 a little bit. But yeah, so what's interesting here is that despite these things being very, very clearly worked out, and the banjo coming in there doing its particular pattern that seems pretty regular, pretty understood, it's something that goes against the things that are already established, rather than sort of adding to them in a way that enhances them. It sort of pushes against them in an interesting way. So I guess this is something that is quite exciting. What's a way of expressing that in a pithy phrase? Something like cross purposes. Let's just put cross purposes. Yeah, it feels just weirdly like well, maybe all that really happened there. Oh, that's purposes. Maybe all that happened there was really that it wanted to do the same G minor pentatonic thing for all of them, and it just didn't sound quite right against the A, so that's where it changes, and it's all quite intuitive otherwise, but hard to tell. And what's interesting is that it ends up being 3 different parts: the pedal, the banjo, and the mandolin, that are all doing their own harmonic ideas. Well, that was a confusing section, wasn't it? We had some change. I'm going to work it out. I'm not going to be this anal about the rest of the song, I think, but I'm going to try and work out what exactly changes about the mandolin there. The banjo goes a bit higher, so we're going up to that sort of B flat up there. That's what mainly changes with the banjo. It feels mostly quite similar, but I think the chord quality, or the in fact chord itself, changes on the mandolin. Let's have a listen. Yeah, so we're already there by then, interestingly. Oh no, we're not. Okay. Yeah, so that's still happening. Right. So here we go. Yeah, so that's a really fun moment. We go from that G minor to one of these kinds of things. It's like a G9 chord. So we go from that G minor, we sharpen the middle notes to make it a G major chord, and then we also, I think, in fact, there's a chance that's not there, but I can kind of hear it, maybe just in my head. But we definitely get the 7th and the 9. So we go from this quite dark sounding G minor to this very bright, coquettish G9, just for a moment though, because then that shifts down seemingly all. It's not quite though, but a lot of that shifts down semitonally. Let's try and work that out. Okay, is it an E major? C sharp minor? Yeah, something like that. Wow, that's very different. But also it has some similarities. So before, what did we have? We had G minor to A major with that semitonal change. Now we kind of get that first one moving down a little early to give us that G9, and then that moves down semitonally from there. So that G9, another way of describing that is a D minor chord on a G. So we get the D minor chord here, and we put the G underneath. So maybe that's more salient as a way of thinking about it, because then that descends chromatically. So instead of getting the G minor to the A major there, we get the D minor to the C sharp minor, and it sounds very dark. We've got that G sharp against the G, a proper false relation, a really nasty thing there, but we do love false relations, so on it goes. False relations. Yeah, false relations are where you've got two of the same note and two different versions of the same note. So you could have a G and a G sharp, or a G and a G flat. And here we've got G sharp there and a G down here. So it sounds very, very split. Two different things going on at least, and the banjo, God knows. Yeah, and then I think that's just moving down the same chord. It might have some nuance to it. Feels like we do have a G in there in the mandolin part as well, so it's a really, really clashy mandolin part itself. And then, yeah. Okay, so that feels more like an F minor. With then that, yeah. Is it with a C flat? Da. All of those. Oh. So that feels relatively comfortable for a moment there. It's like an F minor on G, and that is okay because we've still got the same two semitones that came down after the A to the A flat. We've still got those there. We've just got an extra F, I think. Yeah, I think what that is, it's sort of going for an A flat 7 chord with the D, but what that means is we have an A flat, a G, and a G flat at the same time, which is 3 semitones right next to each other. Very, very discordant. Really, really crazy. So thank goodness it doesn't last long. It lasts long enough, really. And then, yeah, back to this G. It doesn't feel as comfortable, though, this time. This G sus2 that we got to the first time felt very comfortable the first time, and this seems a little odd. Yeah, because we've got da. We've still got that F sharp in there. Just meaning it doesn't quite feel resolved. It still feels like a bit of a D major chord against the G. Yeah, and it feels like it's going between those two, like a G sus2, maybe to an A, back to a G, back to. That's odd. And this guy's giving a D as well. The banjo is around a D chord. And we've got the G in the bass. And yeah, I think this is going between D and A up here. Wow. Yeah, so it's almost like a bitonal thing going on here, with the G being held against the other things which are in a D major. Those two things can exist in the same key, so it's not real bitonality, but it feels really split, like two different, well, and 3 different things going on, all in different ranges as well, which is fun. And then it's just somewhere else, isn't it? Sudden pivot. Do we like a sudden pivot? I'm actually not convinced we like a sudden pivot. Let's hear it again. Well, that's yeah, really a big change. Texturally, sudden drop in texture is fun. Is suddenly a melodic theme as opposed to a chordal theme. Very simple thing. Just moving to a higher note the second time, but doing basically the same thing over a shorter time frame as well. And the banjo is just giving us seemingly random notes. But what's important is that we have completely shifted tonal center. We were around G, and with those A's and D chords over the top, and then this is around E flat. So just out of nowhere, we've gone from this kind of confusing set of notes to one that doesn't even happen in those. And in fact, all three of those first notes aren't there. In fact, all four of them. So we've gone basically full shift round to the other side of the world here. Yeah, I don't really like how that sounds. Let's carry on. Yeah, so I think it's the bass giving us quite a high note here, and the banjo giving us that one. Yeah, so it's an odd harmony, and it feels much sparser, much harder to understand. We're still, though, basically in the same tempo and the same same seven. So at least let me just count that. Let's just check. 5, 6, 7, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 1, 2, 3. Yeah, it's still in 7, still more or less the same speed, but the texture has just completely changed by the use of a very different playing styles from everybody. Much more staccato, much more detached. So we do like a sparse texture. So let's put that in. There we go. Sparse texture. So where there's not that many instruments on. Okay, a little bit of soft strumming, I think, from the banjo there. Just up there. This kind of thing. Very soft, very soft. And everyone joins in. That's really fun, isn't it? That's the bass, obviously. It's giving almost a percussive sound because it's that, maybe it's a pull-off or something happening there, but it's got a lot of sort of fretboard noise there, which is a nice sound, yeah. So I guess percussive bass. We like percussive bass, not kick drum, not bass drum, just percussive bass. That's not right like that. Percussive basically means that it's being hit, or that it has a quick attack on the sound. Yeah, so I would say plucked things are somewhat percussive in their attack, but not technically percussion. Anyway, let's carry on. Yeah, how does he do that? It's not just one of them. I guess it could be a slow strum through the strings. So going from that to that. Yeah, I guess that probably is what's going on there. But it's so finessed. It's really, really impressively finessed. I guess we have to put on virtuoso or virtuosic playing here, don't we? Because it's hard not to enjoy when people are really just playing very, very well. Virtuosic playing. It's hard to know where the cutoff is for virtuosic playing. Like, I'm very good, and sometimes I might be considered a virtuoso, but a lot of the time I'm playing like crap. Am I always a virtuoso? I don't know. What really fun idea there. The mandolin played behind the nut, or behind the bridge probably. I do have a mandolin down here, just let me get that. It's only got 6 strings, but behind there, so you can strum on the main notes. And then you can strum behind there, and suddenly you get these eerie, freaky ghost notes. So mandolin ghost notes, we definitely like those. Yeah. Just for an added like strange noise. It's definitely not planned harmonically. Let's just put mandolin ghost. Okay, but it's really a nice sound. Keep it on going. Stop-start nature of the rhythm here is really interesting, isn't it? Because we get these da 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 da, and then they'll just stop. There'll be a whatever it is from Chris Thiele, just filling that space, and then they come in with the same thing again. It's really cutting abruptly from thing to thing. It is quite exciting. Have you noticed we're sort of back with the same harmony now? So that was like an A flat to a G. Will it carry on that way? Yeah, so that would be a G, more like a G6 or an E minor on G. But yeah, that kind of thing. And they're just playing their chord. Strange how the chord isn't even the focal part most of the time here. Maybe when the changes happen it becomes that way, but really the focal part is the percussive mandolin. It's really good. It's so funny because it's like a solo, isn't it? It's like a solo, unpredictable rhythmic segments. So we get that. Let's hear that bit again. Felt like there was a knock on wood there as well. Yeah, so what's that bit? Something like that. And it's obviously got to fit in 7 as well. So yeah, really interesting what's going on here rhythmically. So those are like 6s. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Really as fast as they can, and they're going against the and oh man, let's slow it down a little bit. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 5 and 6 and 7. Right, so it ends up feeling more like 3s from that perspective, but when everyone else is maybe still doing the 7s, it's hard to keep track of. Yeah, they're still doing the 7s. 4, 5, 6, 7, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Okay, Okay, some octaves there from the mandolin as it comes out of its percussion solo. It's interesting. I wouldn't get drummers doing that on a modern record, but yet it's okay for a mandolin. I don't know. It's very... all right, let's say we love it. We like the mandolin ghosts. We like the mandolin perk as well. And the percussive bass. So altogether, we like these instruments being played in their percussive ways. So it feels a little disappointing now that it goes back to pitched stuff. It's less exciting in a way, but there's a good merger, mixing the strums and individual notes. Yeah, it's very high. Oh, come back, finger. No, man. Yeah. Like that kind of thing, but with more finesse, more excitement, better played. Okay, it feels like we've gone into another strange area where we've got just individual notes coming through on the mandolin with boo boo boo, slightly strange bass noise. Yeah, I mean, it isn't a fretless bass, but I will put fretless bass here because we're getting the noise that you get from a fretless bass. You get the microtonal slides that make it an instrument which surpasses tonal 12-tone systems. Anyway. Really feels just like two different melodies here. I can't tell how they interlock just by listening. Maybe if I wrote it down, it would make more sense. But yeah, it's polyphony. It's polyphony, as I guess we had earlier as well. That was the cross purposes, but the polyphony here seems to at least they don't get in the way of each other, whereas the banjo and the mandolin definitely were getting in the way of each other before. Yeah, polyphony is when we have lots of different, or just two here, but more than one different melody interlocking and making things, making the focal point, which is normally the melody, harder to distinguish from everything else that's going on because we have several different things. What's harmony, what's melody becomes a harder question. We've got some funny noise from the banjo, I think. So they're really using their instruments to the full here. I think that's just scratching on the snare drum face of the banjo there to make extra percussive noise again. We're still in 7, aren't we? 6, 7, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Now we've got the same melody and at the same pitch as we had in the mandolin the first time we got to this bit, but now it's and it's being played on the bass. Really interesting sound. And we've got the banjo and the guitar back in. I think it's actually maybe two banjos here. I'm hearing a banjo over here and a banjo over here. Could be a guitar in the left ear. Okay, we've left that on a weird chord. Should we work it out? Bow. Boom. Yeah. Ooh, lots of that note with that in the middle. Is that all? No, yeah, we don't have that one. Okay. Yeah, so it's like a C-sharp major chord with a G. Ah. Well, it's not quite like what we've had before. We have had a G being against the rest of the chord before. Are we going to go back to something where that's the case? Let's hear it. Nope. We're going back to the same thing again. So again, this stop-start nature of this one, so strange how it just pauses for moments. And then it didn't even go anywhere different. It just carried on with the same thing. But that bass is very much going between... Okay, it's going between an A flat and a D. Nice tritone interval there. It's mainly on the A, but then we come to the end of the phrase and it waits on the D. Yeah, uncomfortable, strange stuff, and not back to our G at all. Ah, a recapitulation. Nice. So there, we eventually made it back to those first three chords. Interestingly, the reverb seemed to suddenly come in there as well. We made it back to those first three chords, and so we are back to the beginning of our first theme. Oh, I said the beginning of. That was like a good bit of percussive mandolin there. The beginning of. I'll have to remember some phrases like that. Gosh, yeah. Percussive singing is really cool. What am I doing? Yeah, I'm writing recapitulation. A recapitulation is when we come back to the initial themes. The initial themes are often called an exposition. And if we come back to them, yep, that's right. At least in some recognizable form, then we would consider it a recapitulation. They might be slightly changed. They might be in a different key. They might be in a different time signature, although I doubt these ones will be. We also might have those themes come back earlier, but maybe they're more developed in the middle. That's what we would consider a development. If the section in the middle where things change is often considered a development, even if it's not actually developing the material from the beginning. Let's carry on. Okay, slight difference to the first time here is that we have the banjo doing its thing straight away. Even more drawn out from the fiddle there. Fiddle not been doing that much actually, has it? Maybe it's been doing some more pizzicato playing that I haven't been taking account of. I'll keep an eye out for the rest of the thing. Again, stop, pause. Slide down into pitch. The guitar coming into its own really there with that slide. Cool. Yeah, it's done it so much. I'm gonna put it on. It's won me around. This stop start or pauses. Let's put stop start. It's so unusual when you compare it to, pop music or even, normal bluegrass music would generally, as far as I'm aware, I'm not that aware of bluegrass, but it would go at the same pace and it would just keep going at that rattling breakneck pace a lot of the time. But this one is just allowing loads of light in, loads of pause space. Oh, we've got a guitar melody in the background here, or in the low range, in octaves, giving us that. So departing from just holding the G like the beginning. So we are getting some development of this original theme here. Yeah, that's fun. Yeah, there's our F actually for the F minor. So another level of polyphony here. We've got that guitar doing its own thing now as well. And these are our altered harmonies that we got, where we got that D minor and the C sharp minor. So yeah, everything going darker and more discordant here. So we've got the G in the bass, we've got bow in the guitar there for a moment. No, that, yeah. And we've got that in the higher, oh no, in fact, yeah, something, maybe it's actually that, so it's not too bad. Yeah, F sharps and Gs and seemingly A flats at certain points as well. It's really, really crazy stuff. But then there again is our sort of D and A stuff. So cleaning up. It feels a little more together here. There's the darkness, and then it's probably because the guitar is giving us so much down here that goes against the G bass. It doesn't feel as strong as it did in the first section. Actually, it might have stopped doing it. Let's listen again. Yeah, I feel like when we get to that A in the guitar, and then we're around the the D and A stuff, I think that's when the bass, when the pedal resolves, it leads somewhere else. Yeah, so now at this point it's doing stuff with the guitar. So they're dum dum bum 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 bum, something like that. Its own two lines, well, not its own line. The same as the guitar line down an octave. Yeah. Yeah, so we get this kind of D majory feel here, but it's with an A in the bass. Yeah, definitely not resolved. Strange, ambiguous feeling. And it's back, the pedal is back out of nowhere. And it ends on a G out of nowhere. And it feels almost, like a. It in some ways it's very, very comfortable and very finished, but because we had that sort of A-ness, yeah, the A-ness of an A chord, right? The A-ness, it's got a really a lot of A-ness in an A chord. Because of that, it gives us this kind of Lydian feeling. So when we resolve back there, it's real dampening on the emotion. It's not keeping on going with that bright, exciting, we need to go forwards. It's going, actually, come back home for tea. Yeah. So I will just put Lydian mode at the end there. Yeah. It doesn't clear. It's not there for long. We're more chromatic than anything in this song, but towards the end there we get a lot of tonal stuff. It's still very confusing, very all over the place around the G Lydian scale. Yeah, not much C in there at all. It cleans up the chromatics quite a lot and just leaves us with this with this 7 notes that are still enough to be very confusing. Wow, I think that's very exciting. I think that anyone who likes people who play instruments really well can do a lot worse than listen to that Punch Brothers album. It's their 7th album, like I might have said, The Unsung Adventures of Punch Brothers. Yeah, and that was Saturn, Pogo Ball of the Gods, and that's a funny title. Yeah, loads of other songs on there that are exciting. It is like the same ensemble all the time, but they treat it in very different ways. They're very intelligent and like music loving people, so they have gone out of their way to make this album super interesting and exciting in the ways that they're playing together, and that's great. More of that. Go and do some of that yourself. Have a lovely day. See you soon. Bye bye.